Welcome to Ace of Pentacles, your career strategy and workplace wellness podcast. I'm your host, Sara, and I'm so happy you're here. Join me every week as we investigate how people design and discover their way through their careers. Together, we'll explore the science of well-being at work and discover tools and strategies to help us do well and be well. Hi, Christiana.
Hi, Sara.
How are you?
It's great to be here, and I really appreciate this opportunity. It's so wonderful to sort of be in this space with you, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for taking the time.
You're welcome.
Christiana, you are the training sales manager and certification specialist for HeartMath Institute, HMI. HMI is a nonprofit organization dedicated to researching and developing heart-based tools and technologies to enhance well-being and human connection. And HMI aims to create a more compassionate, a kinder world by helping individuals and groups increase their coherence, and we'll talk about what that is, reduce stress, and tap into their heart's intuitive guidance. Now, I found HMI several years ago, and I became a resilience coach mentor through your certification program, which you helped me get through. And I think the way that HMI defines resilience and the science-backed tools it offers to really help build our capacity for resilience. These tools and the techniques are very powerful for our well-being. I've used them myself. I help my clients use them. And so I'm really happy to be talking to you today.
Yeah.
And I'd love for us to start off with, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Of course, let's start at the beginning. I've had a what do you call it? A back and forth type of journey. So I did want to start at the beginning and then sort of jump to some things. But basically, I was inherently shy through my childhood and adult life. And I felt like something was inside of me was pushing me to like get past that shyness, get past that insecurity. And so I tried to find different ways to help build my confidence. And I found this through drama and voice in high school. So I did join the choir. I was part of drama and I just absolutely loved it. I found myself being able to get lost in a character or lost in something so that I didn't have to feel the insecurity in myself. And I did feel like, okay, this is a way that my internal self is trying to help me to get through things. And I also found this through college. I wanted to go to college to be a teacher. And I went to the University of California, Santa Cruz, with a major in English Lit. And my mother was a teacher, and she was an incredible teacher. She taught 7th and 8th grade language to bilingual students, and she raised the reading level ability of that particular group 2 to 3 grades. So she was extremely inspiring for me. So I thought, I want to be a teacher. And so when I went to UC Santa Cruz, I couldn't get the theater and acting courses that I wanted unless I changed my major to be a theater arts major, so I did. Through that, of course, I found my insecurities waxing and waning through what I had to do in the drama there. And I got this letter from the American Conservatory Theater Advanced Training Program, which was kind of where I wanted to go after I went to UC Santa Cruz, but I needed a recommendation for a partial scholarship. I went to my advisor, who was head of the theater arts, and he would not sign it. And so that let me know, wait a second, maybe I am right. Maybe I'm not good enough. It just reinforced that feeling. However, it also propelled me to be passionate about something. So I created a thesis project at the end of my senior year where I pulled a musical together. I hired the actors, the director, the orchestra. I acted in it, and then I defended my thesis, and that went pretty well. And then at the last part, I was doing this video class where there were all the students there, the videographer, and my advisor who was teaching the class. And so when I was doing this monologue of an older woman, and when I started the dialogue or the monologue, I actually went up, meaning, and that's an acting term, you go up on your lines, you can't remember your lines. But actually what happened was I got so involved in the character that I completely lost my own awareness of what I was doing. And I was just the character. And when I looked up at the end, I looked at all the students looking at me and they were kind of like, it was like, I can't believe that this is what happened, what you did. The videographer hadn't even pressed the video button. And my advisor took me aside and said, I'm going to sign that recommendation paper for you to go to the American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco, which was quite prestigious. So that told me, okay, I'm on the right track to where I want to go and what I need to do and what my purpose is. And then, so I did go to the American Conservatory Theater Advanced Training Program, which was absolutely amazing. The art of theater and craft and voice movement, everything you could want was there. I learned so much. Then I got a job in Texas at a Shakespeare festival. I love Shakespeare. And then I moved to Los Angeles. So this is what I said. It's kind of a long way around. But in Los Angeles, I had several jobs in various entertainment industry places. And I felt like I was there because the media, entertainment, film, TV, radio, and in this case, streaming services today, they have so much influence over how people think and feel and perceive about their life. And I thought, okay, I'm here because I want to uplift people in this communication medium. This is what I want to do. I want to uplift people. And so I was helping to create projects at the bottom level, but develop projects for that. And then I joined a Consciousness Research Institute where I was doing all kinds of communication help and then helping to get rid of some bad habits and things like that. And it was through this institute that I met Doc Childry, who is the founder of HeartMath. And he was talking about the heart and how the heart and the brain work together for optimal learning and performance. But it was so much more than that. It was really about how you can align your systems, but it's the feeling states of what comes from the heart that really can make your life better, can make you propelled for your purpose and who you really are. And that's what sold me. I just had this ping in my system, and that's why I was one of the several people that helped to create the things that we needed to do to found the HeartMath Institute. So that was a long way around, but that was my story. And I'm sticking with it.
Well, Christiana, I'm so glad that you took the long way around to tell us that story because I think that's such a beautiful story.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I'm always amazed whenever I have guests on the podcast and they go through kind of their career. And I'm a big believer in it's a combination of, we plan for things and then things also happen and push us in certain directions. But with your story, it's so clear that the common thread that kind of weaves all of your experiences together is, like you said, that uplifting of people and helping people be well.
Yes, absolutely. I really want people to have the experience of knowing who they really are and connecting with others that have the same experience, helping others become more of that as well. Yes.
Ah, that's wonderful. I mean, I didn't know your career story before this, but now everything's making a lot of sense for like why you do what you do at HMI.
Yes, thank you.
This episode is about resilience, and resilience is a big topic right now, especially in our world, but it's a very important skill to develop. It's something that we all need for our well-being. And so let's start with, what is HeartMath's definition of resilience and how does it differ from traditional definition?
That's a really good question. And I wanted to ask you, Sara, if you think of what resilience means to you, what does it conjure up for you? What are the qualities of it for yourself?
Yeah. Well, I know HeartMath's definition, and I really appreciate HeartMath's definition because I'll speak to before learning about HeartMath, what I thought of resilience. I feel like it's this word that makes you kind of feel like, ugh, like I have to put up with stuff. It's just like, ugh, there's so much going on and everyone's requiring me to be like resilient, and that just means I have to like sit here and just take it.
Right.
And so I think, HeartMath's definition, I think that's why you're here. That's why we're having this conversation, because I think it really, going through the certification program and becoming a coach mentor, really helped me evolve my own perception of what resilience is and what it can be.
Yes, that's wonderful. I'd love to tell you HeartMath's definition and of resilience, and then I'd like to break it down a little bit because I think the nuances of it helps to show you and your listeners what is this definition of resilience. We hear it all over the place, like you were saying, I have to be, I have to take it. Yeah. So HeartMath's definition of resilience is the capacity to prepare for, recover from, and adapt in the face of stress, challenge, or adversity. Okay? So now I'm going to break it down. So capacity is a key element of this. What is capacity? It's the ability to how much of something we can hold in our systems, and in this case, the amount of energy that we have in our bodies that we need to expend throughout our day. So that, to me, is where resilience is. It's how much energy we have. So you want to prepare for something. So taking the first part of the definition. So we want to prepare for, let's say, a meeting that's about to take place that we're going to go into. And maybe we know that when we walk into this meeting, there's two factions in it that are going to be contentious. And when we even think about the meeting, we're thinking about what it's going to be like to be in that meeting with those people that are going back and forth and all of that. And we're already feeling drained when we even just think about it. So let's say that I want to prepare myself for walking into that meeting, being the best that I can be, so I can hold myself composed and ready to go. And the more that I get into this sort of composed, kind of resilient place, then whatever happens in the meeting, I can, if an intuition comes in for me to say, can we hold off on saying that? Or something tells me what to say or not say. But even my presence in the meeting, because I'm holding this composed place, this whole energetic place, it can change the meeting. In fact, I've heard people tell me that they've gone into meetings like that and have been leading from behind because their whole energetic persona of who they are has helped change what's going on in that meeting. Of course, it takes practice to do that. So to prepare for something is really key in this resilience process. And, if you're preparing for a sports event or if you're preparing for tests or whatever it is, it's the same thing. Now, the same thing, the next part is to recover from. So if you have some things that happen in our lives, and we have them all the time, you're not expecting it. And you have to recover from something afterwards. Let's say an email comes that tells you that you've got a deadline in 2 days when you thought it was a week. And all of a sudden you're feeling this anxiousness in your system. Well, that anxiousness actually shuts down the cortical functions and you can't think clearly when you're in that state. So you want to do something to help get you back into a balanced, coherent state. And that's the recover from. Or let's say that you're in traffic, somebody cuts you off. What happens when somebody cuts you off in traffic? You put on the brakes immediately, right? But you're feeling your heart racing, and maybe you're getting clammy hands, and your mouth is dry, and all of those things that happen because the sympathetic system kicks in because there's danger. And then eventually you're on the freeway and everything sort of calms down, you slow down, you're more in balance, but it takes a while for that to happen. So for me to recover from something using some kind of technique that can help me get back into balance more quickly, that saves a ton of energy. And that's what we do to help people prepare for and recover from these kinds of events. So then the next part of the definition is to adapt in the face of stress, challenge, or adversity. And to me, this means flexibility. So you want to be flexible mentally, emotionally, physically, even spiritually. And that flexibility means that you can bounce around when you need to, especially in the middle of something. Let's say somebody comes in and they have opposing views to who you are and where you are. Do you want to say something that's going to exacerbate that? Or are you going to be tolerant of whatever is going on? Or let's say you're in a place mentally and emotionally with somebody that you need to either walk away from it or not exacerbate the situation. So these are just examples of what you do to adapt and be flexible in this kind of definition. So these are all examples of what I mean by resilience. And the capacity is something, and resilience is something that anybody can learn. I don't care who you are. We all have a heart and we can do it. So yeah, hope that helps.
Yes. Thank you so much for breaking that down for us and giving those very specific examples. I think one of the things that you spoke to there was this thing that we do where it's like we give away our power and we go into react mode so often, right? We either dissociate. And so when you were talking about the meeting example, I think one of the more common things to do is when, you're in this difficult meeting, you kind of just like mentally drift away where you're like you're no longer engaged, you're not in the room anymore, you're not present, or so there's that dissociation, or we become reactive, and some of us kind of lean on that that instinct to like go back and like argue or fight or show up as kind of mirror the behavior of others in that space. And I think one of the really powerful things that HeartMath teaches is how to not do that, how to not dissociate, how to not be reactive, but actually be fully present, be in your body, and have the ability to hold. It's almost like energetically holding space for the conversation that's happening, even if it's a very
Absolutely.
difficult one.
Yes, absolutely. To hold space means everything to me because if you're in holding space with a positive or renewing emotion, then you're putting out an energy in the room that helps you and helps others, and you especially. So it's helpful. Yes.
Yeah. Christiana, you spoke to this idea of coherence, heart coherence, a little bit while you were giving us that definition. Can you explain what that is?
Heart coherence. It's the ability to align the systems. So we have this signal that goes from the heart to the brain, and it actually helps to create cortical functioning in the brain. Our executive functions, prefrontal cortex, and all of that gets aligned, which is incredible. That's what we want. That's what we need. But it also aligns other things. The immune system, hormonal systems, the autonomic nervous system gets balanced. And when you get balanced like that, that's called heart coherence. Okay, so it's a physiological state, but it's so much more than that because there's an energetic state that goes with it because the heart actually has an heart rate variability or emotional field where emotions are riding on that field, the electromagnetic field of the heart. And those emotions can be felt by people in the room, just like when you go into any room, you can sometimes feel the tension or you can feel when somebody's really uplifted. There's different ways, but I think everybody can relate to this. So emotions ride on that field, and that's what we're calling heart coherence. It's a real alignment of all the systems in the body to get into a space of kind of the highest level that we can be in for performance and so on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the things we don't think about enough is emotional contagion. It happens a lot in the workplace. Like people pick up on emotions and we just don't, it's not something that we think about. People can pick up on your energy, they can pick up on your emotions. So if you are someone who has access to this tool and is able to, maintain your kind of that emotional baseline, I think it just helps everyone else in the space as well.
Absolutely. I mean, we really are all connected. We don't always know that, but it's really true. And we all have the same physical systems pretty much. So you want to stay in a balanced state and then not get upset if you get out of the coherent state because you can just keep going back and practicing. And I'm probably going to say practice a lot in this interview, but that's so key to everything.
Yeah, I agree, especially with this, because sometimes I'll talk to clients about, I offer emotional resilience coaching as one of my offerings, and clients come to me and it's so funny because they'll be like, oh, well, I thought this was going to be like how, you reframe your thoughts and you think differently about things, and that's all part of it. But what I love about this tool is that it's not about your mind. It's not always using your mind to deal with the situation. It's really being inside your body and using the resources that you have in your body emotionally to be able to deal with whatever situation you're in.
Absolutely. Emotions play a much more strong role in that than we have previously thought. And so the more that that information gets out there, I think it can help people a lot. Yeah.
Christiana, which heart math techniques? So there are so many cool tools that HMI has, science-backed tools that you train folks on. Which heart math techniques, from your perspective, are most effective for quickly recovering from emotional stress?
It's a really, really good question. Depends on which technique that you resonate with, but I find that a lot of people use heart-focused breathing as the key. It is the first step in a lot of the heart math tools and techniques, but it's a very simple technique, and it does a big job in getting us focused back to the heart and aligned there. And it's sort of the beginning of the building the heart coherence process. So I can do it for you now if you'd like.
Yes, I would love that.
Okay, great. So we'll just do it together. And the way you start is just focus your attention in the area of the heart. Imagine your breath is flowing in and out of your heart or chest area, breathing a little slower and deeper than usual. Find an easy rhythm that's comfortable. So what was that experience like for you, Sara?
I mean, I love doing that. I have it like ingrained in my brain. I think it brings you back into like the present moment. It brings you back into your body. And it really is like this moment of just peace, you know?
Beautiful, beautiful. The way it's designed to take the intensity out of the emotions. You know, when we're at a 10 or at 11 and we want to ratchet ourselves down, it can take us to that place of ease or calm, similar to what you're saying. And it's the beginning of this heart coherent process. Maybe we haven't added an emotional state at that time, but it gives us this place of objectivity and neutral to be ready to take off to wherever we want to go. So heart-focused breathing is one of those techniques that I've heard a lot of people really like and they use a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful tool. And that's kind of the beginning, like you mentioned, of
Yeah.
the whole, the experience that HeartMath has created for anyone who wants to learn these tools. Christiana, what role does intentional breathing play in improving resilience?
Intentional breathing. So it's really interesting because it's important that you practice intentional breathing to improve resilience. It's good to start with your own rituals and routines. So you'll find you automatically want to breathe a little deeper through the heart. The more times you do it, the body gets used to it. It's kind of like muscle memory. And then there's different points throughout the day where something will come up in your consciousness to say, I need to breathe. I need to breathe through the heart. So when you need it most. And this is called a carryover effect. Okay, carryover effect. And the goal is to create different internal behavioral baselines in our systems so that you can build resilience more naturally in your everyday circumstances. There's this incredible story. So it's a compelling story, I think, from one of our coaches who was teaching the heart-focused breathing technique to a group of high school footballers, right? And she told them to practice it. And after she left, the coach told her later that one of the footballers got into a scuffle on a relationship issue. The police came and they were going to haul him off to the police station. He remembered heart-focused breathing, so he breathed into that state where he got calm and he was able to stay present in the moment. Just like you were saying, staying present in the moment. They decided not to take him to jail and they let him go because they could see that he was okay. And to me, when I heard that story, I thought, here is somebody who could have had a police record. It's not happening now. He has a tool that he knows he can use when he needs it, and it's affected his life forever. So that one little thing that he was able to do really impacted him. So to me, that's a story. If we could continue to keep practicing and breathe through the heart, it can have huge outcomes for anybody's life. And like I said, you want to add to habits that you're already doing. That's really the easiest way to do it. So let's say you wake up and you're doing 5 or 10 minutes of appreciation before you get out of bed. Maybe you want to add 5 minutes of appreciation to yourself, to start your day. Or you want to prep something and energize something that you're about to walk into. Or you want to breathe a feeling of appreciation or care as you, let's say, brush your teeth.
Yeah.
Or let's say if you pray at meals, you can always appreciate where the meal came from and who you're eating the meal with. So I often recommend before meetings, phone calls, getting out family photos. Or have you ever used your phone and there's scrolling pictures that come up? And there's this picture from 5 years ago when you were in the forest and you were with several companions, and you look at the picture and you go, that's how I was feeling. And it was so uplifting. And that kind of thing just sets you up for the rest of the day. The other thing I recommend is if you have the ability to go out into nature and be involved with trees and plants and animals and really experience what that's like, these are just some ways that you can use emotional memories to help you with a renewing emotional state. And the real feelings of love and care, compassion, appreciation, peace, ease, patience, kindness, courage, honor, dignity, all of these things are what we call renewing emotions that create more of that heart coherent field in yourself, and then a way to help others. So that builds long-term resilience.
Yeah. Christiana, I loved the story that you shared, and I think it's so relevant, especially right now in our world, because I just feel like everything around us can trigger like this emotional reaction, right? Like you're on social media and there's like the news cycle, and like every 5 minutes there's something happening in the world is what it feels like. And it's so easy to get lost in that. And this happens, on a global scale and, for us personally, but also at work. I'm thinking about so many moments in meetings where things just kind of spiraled out of control. And it's like if everyone just had the ability, this like tool in their back pocket to kind of just go, okay, I'm going to take a pause. I'm going to remember I'm here. I'm going to remember this emotion is like really big and I just need to be able to, be present, be here in the moment. I think it's a great tool and it can really change our entire experience.
Absolutely. And it sounds like you've been doing it quite a bit in terms, since you're a coach in this process, you've probably seen a lot of things with the people that you're serving and at work and so on. So the proof in the pudding right there.
Absolutely. I have a client. She swears it changed her entire experience of work.
Wow.
And she has a really, she's a VP at a very well-known company. She has a really difficult job. And she's the only female in her peer group. And she's in these meetings all the time. And when she came to me, when we started working together, she was like, it's just really hard because I feel like I'm constantly taking in. I'm absorbing and I'm absorbing and I'm absorbing. And then she started realizing it was affecting other parts of her life. As, these situations do, especially with work. We think we can just like leave work at work, but I think that's like, if someone can actually do that, like realistically, I mean, I just want to know this person because it's so hard to not take our emotions from work into other parts of our lives. And we don't even realize how it's translating sometimes. But she's very emotionally intelligent and she recognized it. And we started using the quick coherence tool, the intentional breathing. We started using these tools and she was like, I just feel like I can actually handle things in these meetings, like emotionally. She said she really felt grounded every time she used the intentional breathing technique.
Absolutely. And you mentioned quick coherence. And quick coherence technique is a technique that builds on the heart focused breathing, where you intentionally add a feeling of appreciation or care for someone or something in your life. That really starts the heart coherence process. This is something, quick coherence, you can use in the middle of a meeting. Nobody even needs to know you're doing it. Eyes open. And it's what you can do in the moment when the stress is getting to you. If you can take your phone out and look at that picture that gives you that emotional uplift or whatever. But it sounds like your client has really found her way to help her with that and not necessarily take so much home with her.
Yeah.
Which can be hard because you don't want the emotional contagion to go home with you,
Absolutely.
Yeah, with your family.
Christiana, you mentioned HRV and a little bit of the science behind HMI's techniques. Can you tell us what biomarkers or indicators HMI uses to evaluate resilience improvement?
Well, for One thing just internally, if you're having a resilience moment, there are 1,400 biochemical changes that go on in the body. And one of the biomarkers is called DHEA, which is a vitality hormone. So if you have the ability to measure that, that's a great way to measure it. It actually uplifts the system. HeartMath has created technology and a special app to be able to measure in the moments, measure it in real time. So it's called the Inner Balance Coherence Plus sensor and HeartMath app. Did you want me to talk a little bit about that?
If you'd like to, I'll drop the link for HMI's website and the tools where if anyone's interested, they can go, do the
Okay.
research and look it up themselves. But if you'd like to say anything about it specifically, we can.
That's okay. It's just when you use a special app with your phone, you can actually see your heart rate variability, which is the beat to beat changes between each heartbeat. And what's interesting about that is people don't know that their heart is not a metronome, but that it constantly changes. It goes up and goes down and goes up and goes down, and you want that flexibility in your nervous system. So to be able to measure heart rate variability in real time on your phone while you're hooked up, you can see how coherent you really are. You can see an incoherent rhythm and then a coherent rhythm and what that means. You can see scores. You can see through colors, low, medium, and high levels of coherence. And you can take measurements over time to see how you're doing. So I do recommend that for people that like gadgets who want to measure their heart rate variability. This is a real-time heart rate variability where other gadgets are, let's say, a recovering score or something like that. This is real time that can help train your autonomic nervous system to get in balance.
Yeah.
So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Christiana, one of your roles with HMI is you help with community partnerships with first responders and different organizations. You gave the example of the footballer and, you work with schools. So there's a variety of organizations that HMI works with. Can you give us an example of how HMI has helped first responders or any organization build group or collective resilience?
Really good question. Thank you for that. So several years ago, HeartMath was involved in a project with the Navy. We were helping to do a resilience program for detainee ops for people that were in Afghanistan. And what we found from this particular program, so 5,000 people we were trained in, it was our research director and other people that were doing that. From that program, we were able to see various things that we needed to do for the other first responder organizations like law enforcement, besides military, corrections, EMTs, fire service, things like that. So we did create programs for those particular areas. And what we found was it was really important to look at the ability to quickly reset the mental, emotional, and physical systems, especially after critical incidents, because they go into danger zones all the time. Whether you're in the military, you're in law enforcement, you're in fire. I mean, that they're walking into it, and that means your whole system is spiked. So how can you maintain that level? So we created programs to help with that, increased awareness of self-management and stress reactions, because a lot of times they don't want to think about anything, but being able to be situationally aware of what's going on and making better decisions, having the mental clarity to make better decisions in the moment, because this can be life and death with these organizations. The ability to maintain composure in challenging situations. We do it in our office, but can you imagine the challenging situations that they have? What we found when we did this was there were reductions in anger, distress, sadness, and fatigue. Those were the areas we really wanted to look at, and reduced sleeplessness to be able to have better sleep and the physical symptoms of stress. So these were just some of the areas that we were able to talk to in these programs for the first responder community. We do have collaborations with organizations like Blue Courage, which is a law enforcement organization. And we have an organization, alliance partner in Netherlands, that has trained 34,000 Dutch police officers. So the ability, especially to increase reaction times which is great for sports performance as well. Recovering after critical incidents and better decisions. These are the key areas that we've created for those programs.
Wow. I keep saying I love the tools that HMI provides so much because I think what you just spoke to there was the ability for these tools not only to help you in terms of managing your relationships and conflicts or relations at work, but even your physical health. Yeah.
It's so key in so many areas for so many people. Think about where people are right now with physical health. I mean, especially mental health. There's a lot of mental health issues going on right now. So these are some tools and techniques that can really help.
Yeah. And the two, I mean, I think they impact each other more than we'd like to admit. I know for myself, when I'm mentally really healthy, I'm also physically really healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're interchange. I mean, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. We have this whole domains of resilience and energy that we talk about, and they're so interactive, so interconnected. You're absolutely right. Yes.
Do you have any data on how heart coherence practices affect workplace resilience and productivity?
There are a number of case studies that have been done over many years from workplace organizations in the fields of telecommunication and information technology and hospitality, finance, especially healthcare. So we have a whole organization that specifically deals with healthcare, like Kaiser Permanente, let's say, or Duke Medical, or larger hospital organizations. There's quite a few case studies and studies on that. We have psychometric instruments that aggregate data pre and post. So those pre and post measurements make it easier to sell the information to an organization or whoever you're working with. We also have an individual assessment that's an electronic based assessment called the stress and well-being assessment. This is what coaches use oftentimes to work with their individual clients so they can set goals together and actually accelerate the process, looking at stress and well-being scales. So when you implement, you're going to implement heart coherence techniques to, depending on what the goals needed for the organization or the individual clients. So this is what we do and provide to leadership teams or individuals.
Okay, thank you. And my last question for you is, can you speak to how concepts like heart intelligence relate to our resilience and our inner strength, intuition, and emotional alignment?
Yes, heart intelligence is one of those terms. You don't hear it a lot because you hear about emotional intelligence quite a bit, right? Heart intelligence there's actually a book called Heart Intelligence, which I highly recommend to anybody that wants. But there are some wonderful people that put together some sentences. And so I'm going to read some sentences to you because I think it's going to help listeners on what heart intelligence is. So it's the flow of awareness and understanding and intuition we experience when the mind, emotions are brought into coherent alignment with the heart. So it's a flow of awareness, understanding, and intuition when mind and emotions are in coherent alignment with the heart. That sort of takes me back because I just love hearing that. And of course, it's activated through self-initiated practice. We have to be proactive with it. We can pay attention to our ability to access this intelligence and guidance more frequently. Now, here's a sentence I want to read because it speaks volumes to me. So, heart intelligence underlies cellular organization and guides and evolves organisms towards increased order, awareness, and coherence of their body's systems. So, here it's saying it's a cellular organization of what's going on for this increased order. And so, our inner strength is keenly influenced by the choice of emotional diet that we choose. A lot of people don't think about that we can be ingesting emotions, but we do. We think that emotions are just coming over us, but that's not true. We have a choice in how we interact and react with those. So it's important to be able to be still enough in our heart, in our body, to get that intuitive guidance, to get the coherent alignment that we need. And so that's renewing emotions, but depleting emotions actually counteract who we are as people. It actually not only takes the system down and maybe it's unhealthy, but it actually blocks who we are as people and what our purpose is. Not a lot of people really understand that. We think I'll get really angry and irritated and all, because it feels good in the moment, but that feel good is one time, and then we actually pay for it. You know, the energy that we're expending in that download, or even if we judge every day, or, you know, those feeling fear. And it's so easy to feel that right now, the fear and uncertainty that some people are feeling. If you have something that you can keep going back to that's going to renew the body systems, then that's what I highly recommend for people. Getting the intuitive guidance from the inside of who you are.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that is such an important reminder right now, because especially with fear, you know, we're watching the news or like all the stuff that's happening in the world, and we just think, oh, well, I can't do anything about it, and therefore it's okay for me to sit here and feel this way. And I think there's just a more empowering way to move through life. And so sometimes it's just not even knowing that there's tools out there. I'm so glad that we did the meditation that you led us through earlier, because I think sometimes these topics might seem almost like inaccessible to people, because they're like, oh, it just feels like it's going to be all this extra work. But just in this conversation, it took less than 2 minutes for us to get centered, and you just feel so much better after that.
So much better. And I often suggest to people when they're looking at the news, maybe they would consider a news fast for a little bit, or being able to use it as a platform to stay into as much balance as possible. It's hard because sometimes you don't know what news is really true and what's not, and it's difficult at times. I say the more that you can stay in that coherent state, you're actually putting an energy out into the room, and you don't know how far it goes. I mean, we can measure the heart's electromagnetic field 5 or 3 feet away from the body, but there's a lot of case studies now and studies that are showing it actually goes much further. And it's really, you know, people that have intuitive connections with people halfway across the world because they're connected via family, they kind of intuitively know what's going to happen to that person. It's stuff like that where we don't really know what we don't know. I would say staying balanced and calm in your own state. First of all, it's going to help you, but then it will also help your family. It can help your community. It can help the people that you interact with. There's a lot that you can do to impact the feelings just in your local area. So I don't want people to take my word for it. I want you to try it. That's why I wanted to teach the heart-focused breathing, because I think it can really help people.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to repeat something that you said. The heart's electromagnetic field, we know, reaches at least 3 feet outside of you. Like, I think that's so powerful to just know that that's the impact you have in the world, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a good reminder. I don't think we think about that enough. You mentioned with the news one thing, and yes, I'm a big fan of news fasts, but one thing that I've done more recently is, over the past few years, so maybe not that recently, is I actually only listen to the news twice a day max, like once a day on, you know, just to stay informed. But like, if I really have to, I'll do another round of just like, what are the top headlines, you know, later on in the day. But I actually use the heart focused breathing afterwards. So anytime I come across anything, and I have practiced this, I mean, it's been like 2-3 years now, and I've practiced it so much that it kind of just happens. It's an automatic thing. And this is why I think what you mentioned earlier with practice, that's so important. Because I think sometimes people think, oh, okay, I'm going to go do this training, or I'm going to go, you know, take this class, and then like all my problems are going to be solved. Yeah, it takes a lot of training, but now when I come across like news or information that's like, I can feel it in my body when it rattles me a little bit, and I immediately like do the heart focused breathing, and I genuinely feel better.
That's really wonderful. It sounds like it's almost an automatic process for you now, which is really hopeful as you go through any of the other things that are going on in our lives. The one thing I wanted to say about the 3 feet, the electromagnetic field of the heart, that's where the instruments can take us. but we think that it goes farther, and we can actually do, we've done a number of studies on how much people can be influencing each other halfway around the world. So it's something to consider, that there's more to us than just what's in front of our face. We have much more power over our own bodies, our own reactions, our own emotional diet than we previously understood. And the more that you can start to practice, and again, practice, it takes 4 to 6 weeks for a habit to be formed. But if you've seen some of the studies that we've done, we worked with some high school students where we worked with them in a classroom, and it was 4 months in the classroom. At the end, yes, their test scores improved because that's what we were doing, but we actually saw their baseline heart rate variability in this coherent state, and it was actually at high levels of heart rate variability, which is showing that it's a healthier state. So it's really possible to get into this coherent alignment, because that's what our bodies are meant to be. We've been stressed out of it. Our bodies are meant to be aligned. And so we can take charge and make that happen. Composed we can be and utilize the techniques throughout the day.
You've inspired me I'm rethinking some of my curriculum. I teach psychology, and I'm rethinking my curriculum for next year. And I'm like, why haven't I used this in my psych class?
Yeah, it's so much that, positive psychology and some of those things are really, really important. And that's right, you do teach psychology. Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so I think next semester I'm going to be using heart-focused breathing with my students.
That's great.
Christiana, I thank you so much for this conversation, for taking the time. If someone wants to learn more, start working with HeartMath or HMI tools, even you spoke to the research that you all are doing, and I think you have a whole library of research that I think is really, really powerful. But if someone wants to, bring these tools into their lives or their workplaces, what would be the process? Who would they get in touch with? How would they go about doing that?
I'm very happy to talk to people. That's part of my job. I'm the certification specialist. I've been a senior trainer in the field, so I can help guide people. So if people want to get in touch with me, they certainly can. I'm also on LinkedIn. Sometimes people get connected with me on LinkedIn. Anytime that you go to the heartmath.org website, there's a lot of information there. But go to the training menu, and there'll be a series of different kinds of training, coaching, workshops, or clinical programs for those that are licensed mental health professionals. So we have 6 different certifications, and I'm happy to explain anything to anybody about it. This is my joy, by the way. I talk to people all over the world, from all backgrounds, all cultures. It just uplifts me to hear what it is they're doing and how they're experiencing their lives, why they're in touch with their life's purpose, and all of that. So I'm just happy to talk to anybody that wants to talk about these kind of heart coherent techniques. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I will drop all that information in the show notes, and we'll share it on our social media platforms as well as LinkedIn, and I'll tag you on there. And I am so thankful for you and that you do what you do, because it has made a difference in my life, and it makes a difference in the lives of my clients.
So appreciate you, Sara. You have no idea, because the people that you touch are going to touch other people. And so there's this ripple effect, and that's how we're going to get to getting more people connected with their own hearts and heart coherent. So appreciate you very much having me here. And I've really enjoyed myself. Thank you.